He told Bruce Springsteen, "You can't afford this vintage guitar." Then Bruce flipped it over and froze him. Asbury Park, New Jersey, March 18th, 2019. A man in his late 60s shuffled into Classic Strings vintage guitars, wearing a wrinkled flannel shirt, faded jeans, and old sneakers. His gait was unsteady from Parkinson's tremors, and to the shop owner, he looked like another aging musician wannabe who'd stumbled in off the street. What happened next would expose the ugliest kind of prejudice and create a moment so shocking that it would be talked about throughout New Jersey for years. Because the man who looked like he couldn't afford a cup of coffee was about to flip over a vintage guitar and reveal a secret that would leave everyone speechless. This is the story of how Bruce Springsteen taught a lesson about respect that changed one man's life forever. Classic Strings was Asbury Park's most exclusive vintage guitar shop. The owner, Danny Morrison, prided himself on his wealthy clientele and had developed very specific ideas about who belonged in his establishment. He could spot a serious buyer from across the room, he told people, and he had little patience for tire kickers who couldn't afford his merchandise. Unfortunately, Danny's ability to judge people was based entirely on appearance, and that approach was about to destroy him. What Danny didn't know was that this seemingly confused old man was Bruce Springsteen, the boss himself. At 69, Bruce was dealing with Parkinson's symptoms, not signs of being washed up. He'd come looking for a specific 1954 Fender Telecaster his guitar tech had mentioned. As Bruce slowly examined guitars around the shop, Danny watched with growing irritation. The old man was touching everything without asking permission. "Sir," Danny called out sharply, "please don't handle the merchandise unless you're seriously interested in purchasing something." Bruce looked up, confused by the hostile tone. "Just looking at your guitars, friend. That's a beautiful Telecaster in the window." Danny's expression hardened. "That guitar is $28,000. It's a collector's piece, not something for casual browsing." $28,000. That's fair for a '54 Tele. Can I take a closer look?" Danny hesitated. Everything about this old man screamed time waster. "Sir, I appreciate your interest, but that's a serious collector's item. It's not something we just hand over to anyone who walks in off the street." The comment stung Bruce more than Danny could imagine. Throughout his career, despite massive success and wealth, Bruce had remained connected to his working-class roots. He remembered being judged by appearance, dismissed because he didn't look like he belonged in certain places. "I understand it's expensive. I'm not here to waste your time. I'm genuinely interested." Danny sighed dramatically. "Look, sir, I don't want to be rude, but you can't afford this guitar. It's $28,000, not 28. Maybe you'd be more interested in something from our acoustics section, more in your price range." The words hung in the air like a slap. Danny's assumption was clear. This shabby old man was too poor, too insignificant, too unworthy to even touch a guitar that cost serious money. Bruce felt familiar anger rising, the same feeling he'd experienced as a young man when Asbury Park shop owners had treated him like dirt because of his clothes. But instead of exploding, Bruce decided to let the situation play out. "Well, since I'm here, would you mind if I just looked at it? I promise I won't damage anything." Against his better judgment, Danny decided to humor the old man to get rid of him faster. "Fine, but be very careful. I have serious customers coming in this afternoon." Danny retrieved the 1954 Fender Telecaster and set it on the counter. It was beautiful with a classic butterscotch finish aged to perfection. Bruce approached slowly, hands trembling from Parkinson's. "Careful now," Danny muttered. "That's worth more than most people's cars." Bruce lifted the Telecaster, examining it with encyclopedic knowledge of vintage instruments. Beautiful instrument. The finish is remarkable for its age. Yes. Well, it's been very well maintained, Danny said impatiently. That's when Bruce turned the instrument over to check for identifying marks. What he saw made him freeze in place. There on the back was a piece of duct tape that looked decades old. Written in faded black marker, B. Springsteen, Born to Run Sessions, 1974. Below that was a signature Bruce recognized because he had written it himself 45 years earlier. For a moment, Bruce couldn't breathe. This wasn't just any vintage guitar. This was his guitar, one he'd played during his breakthrough album sessions. He remembered this specific Telecaster, how its tone had helped shape Born to Run and Thunder Road. He'd sold it in 1975 to cover band expenses. Where did you get this guitar? Bruce asked quietly, voice thick with emotion. I purchased it from a collector in New York about 2 years ago. Why? Bruce stared at his own signature from 5 decades ago. This is interesting. Look at this. Danny glanced dismissively. Oh, that old tape. The previous owner said it was probably some roadie's joke. Happens all the time. People make up stories about famous musicians to increase value. A roadie's joke? Bruce's voice took on a dangerous edge. Yeah, some fan probably stuck that on as a prank. You'd be surprised how many guitars come through here with fake celebrity connections. That's when Steven Van Zandt walked in. Steven was Bruce's longtime friend, bandmate, and little Steven. He'd been with Bruce during those original Born to Run sessions. Good afternoon, Steven called cheerfully. I was hoping you might have that Martin D28 you mentioned online. Danny immediately brightened, recognizing Steven Van Zandt. Mr. Van Zandt, perfect timing. I was just about to call you. But Steven's attention was caught by the figure holding a familiar Telecaster. When recognition hit, his face went white. Holy shit. Bruce? Bruce Springsteen? The shop fell silent. Danny's head snapped around, looking between Steven and the old man he'd been dismissing. That's Bruce Springsteen, Steven said, pointing. The Bruce Springsteen, the boss. One of the greatest rock musicians who ever lived. Danny felt the floor disappear. He really looked at the old man this time. And suddenly he could see it. The facial features from decades of album covers, the distinctive jawline, the way he held the guitar with professional familiarity. Oh my God, you're really Bruce Springsteen? Bruce Springsteen. Bruce finished quietly, holding up the guitar so Danny could see the tape. And this is my guitar. I played it during Born to Run sessions. I put this tape on myself at 9 Wasternin Studios. The color drained from Danny's face as the full magnitude hit him. He'd spent 15 minutes treating one of the most successful musicians in history like a vagrant. I had no idea. I mean, you don't look like... I don't look like what? Rich enough? Famous enough? Important enough to deserve basic respect. Sir, Mr. Springsteen, I am so sorry. Your appearance, your clothes. My clothes? What about my clothes? I'm 69 years old, friend. I have Parkinson's disease. I don't dress up in leather jackets to go guitar shopping on Monday afternoon. The shop was deadly quiet. Danny realized he'd committed professional suicide in front of a music industry contact and one of the most respected musicians on earth. You know what the real problem is? It's not that you didn't recognize me. Most people don't, and that's fine. The problem is you treated me like garbage because you thought I was just some poor old man who wandered in off Cookman Avenue. You decided, based on my clothes and age and how I walk, that I wasn't worthy of your time or respect. You assumed I couldn't afford your merchandise, so you treated me like I didn't deserve to be here. Every word hit Danny like a physical blow. But here's what really bothers me. How many other people do you treat this way? How many musicians, music lovers, people who just want to appreciate beautiful instruments do you dismiss because they don't look rich enough for you? Stephen, who'd been frozen, finally spoke. Danny, you really screwed up here. Mr. Springsteen, please, I can explain. I'm not usually like this. No, you don't get to blame stress. This is who you are. This is how you treat people you think are beneath you. Bruce set the Telecaster back down. I was going to buy this guitar. I was going to pay your $28,000 asking price without negotiating because it's mine and I want it back. But now I'm not sure you deserve the commission. Danny's face went ashen. $28,000 was more than several months' income. Please, I'll do anything to make this right. I'll give you a discount. I don't want a discount. I want you to understand something. Every person who walks into this shop deserves respect, regardless of how they look, dress, or how much money you think they have. Bruce pulled out his wallet and counted $28,000 in cash. Danny stared in shock. I'm buying the guitar because it belongs to me and I want it back. But I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this despite you. As Danny processed the transaction with shaking hands, Bruce continued. You serve musicians and music lovers. Music doesn't care about clothes or bank accounts. Some of the greatest musicians in history looked like bums, but had something more valuable. Talent, passion, and heart. From now on, remember this conversation every time someone walks in. Treat every customer like they might be the next great musician, like they might have a story you've never heard, like they deserve respect simply because they're human beings. With the transaction completed, Bruce picked up his guitar case. As he prepared to leave, he turned back one more time. You know what's funny? 50 years ago, I was just a poor kid from Freehold who got kicked out of high school and lived above a surf shop. If someone told me I'd be buying back my own guitar for $28,000, I'd have thought they were crazy. But here's what I learned. Success isn't about looking the part. It's about staying true to who you are and treating other people with dignity. Remember that, Danny. After Bruce left, Danny stood in his empty shop feeling like he'd survived a hurricane. Stephen finally spoke. Do you have any idea what just happened? I just made the biggest mistake of my professional life. No. You just got the best education you could possibly receive. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Over the next few days, Danny couldn't stop thinking about his encounter with Bruce. The following week, he had a sign made for behind his counter. Every customer deserves respect regardless of appearance. Music is for everyone. More importantly, Danny changed his behavior. He began greeting every customer with warmth and respect, regardless of appearance. He discovered some of his best customers were people he would have previously dismissed. 6 months later, Stephen brought a songwriter friend dressed in thrift store clothes. Danny caught himself starting to make assumptions, but remembering Bruce's lesson, greeted the customer with genuine respect. That customer bought $15,000 worth of equipment and became a regular. The story became legendary in Asbury Park music circles. For Bruce, it was a reminder to remember his working-class roots and stand up for people being treated unfairly. Today, Danny runs one of New Jersey's most welcoming vintage guitar shops. On his desk, he keeps a photo of Bruce holding his recovered Telecaster, serving as a daily reminder that everyone who walks through his door deserves respect. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from unexpected teachers. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, our mistakes become opportunities to become better people. Because in the end, it doesn't matter if you're the boss or just someone who loves music. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. That's the lesson Bruce Springsteen taught one shop owner who will never forget it.